This right here is one of the funniest things I ever done seen. Black like Mao, or some of you might know them as Maoist Red Guard, posted this on their Medium about a year ago, a little over a year ago, about Carlos's concept of the purity fetish, or criticism of Carlos's purity fetish concept. And it says, upholding the revolutionary proletarian line is not a purity fetish, a response to Carlos Garrido's why Western Marxism misunderstands the use of markets. Now, when I opened this, I was like, oh, interesting. I can't wait to hear what this Marxist critique of Carlos is and whether I agree with it. But then I realized I knew this person from somewhere, the Black Like Mao account. And so I started reading the article, and I found it to be a bit silly. Rather than a comradely critique, it starts out like this. A terrible article written by a modern revisionist theoretician, Carlos Garrido, appeared in the Hampton Institute's website on November 29th. In this article, which is titled Why Western Marxism Misunderstands China's Markets, Garrido makes not one reference or citation from Mao or any of his Chinese contemporaries. I repeat, this is an article supposedly about Chinese Marxism, which fails to make use of Mao. That sets the tone for his abominable excuse of an article and marks the author as a charlatan from the very beginning. So, for a comradely critique of another Marxist, he's going in on Carlos here with the pejoratives, with the ad hominem attacks. And also, this isn't even a critique. He doesn't start it out with a thesis or what's actually wrong with Carlos's paper. He's just mad that Carlos didn't cite Mao. So as I was reading this, I sent it to Carlos and Noah. Noah, of course, is a great Midwestern Marx editor and writer. And I was like, dude, read this hilarious article about Carlos. And Noah reminded me that this guy, Black Like Mao, who wrote this article, is the same guy who was on Dr. Phil at one point for trying to blow up his neighbor's Swingset. I swear this is a real guy, and that's what I remembered him from. I couldn't think of it at the time when I first started reading the article, but as soon as Noah said that, I remembered who this guy was.
My husband and I were asleep in bed, and we heard a loud explosive.
You can see on the video Maritha's 3 sons come out of the garage, light an explosive, and all 3 of them run back to the house when the explosion goes off.
We cannot believe that 3 children tried to blow my kid's swing set up. What's next? Is she going to try to kill us? Is she going to blow our house up?
Well, Jonna and Alan say their ongoing feud with their new neighbors has extended to Maritha's 21-year-old son, Christopher, who they claim set off explosives in their backyard. She referred to it as a mortar shell or something like that. Even though they claim they captured the explosion on their home surveillance cameras, Christopher denies having any involvement and says Jonna and Alan are lying and just trying to defame his character.
John and Alan believe that I set off an explosive in their yard. She had a grainy video. I couldn't even tell if the...
Sorry, I tried to rewind so I could...
grainy video.
This is the guy. Dang it. That's the guy who wrote the article about Carlos. And he's waging a protracted people's war here on his neighbor's swing set. If this isn't Maoist praxis, I don't know what is.
Grainy video, I couldn't even tell if these were adults or grown men or little kids. They are obviously lying. I go to a very, very good university, and I would not jeopardize my presence at that university. It doesn't shock me that she would make these accusations because that's in her role as the malicious neighborhood gossip. They say that I sit in my kitchen window at all hours of the day and night and record them. I only record them in an effort to protect myself and my family from lies. I believe that John is a racist. She also relies upon negative stereotypes of African American people as being violent and criminal by nature. My worst fear is that the situation will spiral further out of control and we will have another replay of the Mike Brown incident or the Trayvon Martin incident where one of my younger brothers, myself or my mother, will end up laying out there in the middle of that cul-de-sac dead.
No, I'm not denying that, this family was racist towards him, this family that lives in this cul-de-sac or this suburban neighborhood. They probably were. But to blow up their children's swing set, that just seems extreme. Seems like an extreme response to whatever these people did, because they obviously didn't physically harm you, they didn't attack you, unless they were inciting violence against you. Um, some people say that swing was a dingus, though. Yeah, I mean, maybe that swing supported China's reform and opening up policy. Maybe that swing understands how China uses special economic zones in order to increase their productive forces while still combating poverty and bringing about common prosperity. And therefore, that swing needed to be blown up for revisionism.
Christopher, welcome. We've been looking at some of your tweets. When you're tweeting about we don't need gun control, we need cracker control, are you meaning we need to get the white folks under control in this neighborhood?
I very possibly might have been referring to them as some of our other neighbors that have been harassing and tormenting us since we moved into this neighborhood. I very well might have been. She's scared because my mother is a convicted felon. Martha Stewart is a convicted felon. So if Martha Stewart moved into the neighborhood, would you be afraid of her? Would you be doing all of these things to her? I think not.
And she also called you a pervert.
Yes, she did call me a pervert.
So those probably going to be some next false charges brought on you.
Probably,
You think-
because that's what I believe they're trying to do. They're trying to
Do you believe that he was involved in setting off
Yes.
the explosion in your backyard?
Yes.
Were you?
No, I was not.
Do you know who was?
I do not know.
Okay, he's smiling like it definitely was him. He's like, it wasn't me. Like that's not very convincing. I do not like Dr. Phil, though. This whole spectacle is just hilarious. Let's watch just a little more.
It was July 5th. It was probably some little neighborhood kids running around playing with fireworks. Again, you have this narrative of black male as being violent, black male as being criminal.
Well, don't tell me I have a narrative. I'm asking questions. A narrative is a declarative statement. I'm asking questions, so
That's
I
their
have no
narrative.
narrative.
They're declaring that we are violent, we are criminals, we are out to hurt them because, I don't know, they're saying that we're upset about them calling animal control on us and we have guns in the house and things like that. There's not even a slingshot in our house. We don't use guns. And we most certainly don't use explosives.
In the pre-interview, Christopher says the explosive happened at midnight and you were in bed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you told us. Maritha says she never talked to the police about the fireworks and her sons were never questioned about it, right?
All right, Dr. Phil's voice is just boring. But there you go. There's the guy who wrote this article about Carlos upholding the proletarian line. I don't know. I was talking in the last stream about how a lot of Maoists, a lot of Marxist-Leninist Maoists nowadays are just ultras, right? And they'll say things like, we need to have a protracted people's war in the U.S. right now. Like all Marxists need to join together and take up arms against the ruling class. Like, no, that's just going to get people killed and be super destructive. And nobody in the working class actually wants that. But I don't know. Maybe him blowing up the swing set is the way to start the protracted people's war. Just start taking explosives and blowing up all the different revisionist swing sets that exist. So, well, Garrido does not make use of Mao in his groundbreaking economic analysis and the lessons of the period of bank. And Carlos has read so much Mao. Carlos has read like almost everything Mao's ever put out. And Mao would not be in favor of a lot of the modern Maoists. Also known as the socialist period of China, he makes good use in true charlatan fashion of a number of Chinese words and references to Hegel. How dare he reference Hegel in an article about Marxism, even though Mao's On Contradiction is like the best summary of Hegel that's ever existed, the best summary of the dialectic used to explain to peasants and workers that's ever been made. Garrido does not make use of Mao in his writings from the socialist period because he knows Maoist economics is directly in opposition to the snake oil that he is peddling. I mean, there were people who wanted to do more reform and opening up under Mao, though. Deng Xiaoping, who did the reform and opening up, was a member of the party and a high-ranking member of the party during the era of Mao. This debate was going on under or during the era of Mao. They just decided to go with a more top-down planned model at the beginning of their revolution, just to get things going. He also fails to make use of Maoist theoreticians and economists because they have this to say. Yeah, we don't have to read this whole article. It's not very good. It's just him whining about Carlos not using Mao and not citing the Maoist economists that he likes that agree with him. So silly article. Hilarious that guy, it's the same guy who blew up his neighbor's swing set. And I'll answer that super chat in a quick sec. But again, blowing up your neighbor's swing set is not a protracted people's war. That's not what Mao meant. We don't need to start doing that. And Mao said a million times the number one goal of the party, the number one goal is to consolidate support of the people, which you do by serving the people, meeting their needs, listening to what their interests are, and serving them. Blowing up people's swing sets is not going to consolidate support of the people. So maybe you need to read Mao, sir. And it reminds me of the Baltimore Maoists who were on TikTok a while back. These guys are super base. Check them out.
The way
Fudge.
critique of it, that's what we're Maoists. We make a critique of it in order to improve socialism. The next time it comes around and throws people like your ass into a labor camp.
See, we've done a lot to improve the reputation of socialism in this country after years and years of McCarthyism. But this shit does not help. Stop doing this shit. This does not consolidate support of the people like Mao said. This just makes us look really, really, really bad when you blow up people's swing sets and threaten to throw them in a labor camp if they don't listen to you. That's not what Mao would have wanted. Mao would disagree with modern Maoists, part 1000. So Maoist ultras, please stop.